Rodriguez with a lot of pace for Atletico Ottawa. Look at the run, and what a goal! What a finish, David Rodriguez! His first touch of the match is going to find the back of the goal. And that's what they need from him this season.
Week 2 of the CPL Newsroom presented by Volkswagen. I'm Charlie O'Connor-Clark alongside Mitchell Tierney, and joining us this week, Alex Gange-Ruzik. We only had 3 games this weekend, boys, but we had 10 goals. It was a lot of fun. 2 games out in BC. Pacific losing 2-0 to Forge at Starlight Stadium, Atletico Ottawa coming into Vancouver and winning 4-1 over Vancouver FC. And back here in Ontario, where I was, the Halifax Wanderers leaving it till late to come back for a 2-1 win over York United at York Lions Stadium. Boys, we are going to go through all 6 teams that were in action this weekend. We're going to talk about each of them individually and think about one big question for each of them early in the season. And I think we're just going to jump right into it because we've got a lot to talk about with all these teams. For me, the most interesting and the most entertaining team of the weekend was Atletico Ottawa. That's where we're going to start. That 4-1 win over Vancouver FC. That was not something I think we're used to seeing from Atletico Ottawa. Mitch, your big question for them this week, though, is have Atletico Ottawa already found a recipe for success under Diego Mejia?
I think they have. Diego Mejia has been clear. He wants his team to play the exact same way, whether they're at home or on the road, that front-footed attacking style of football. And it definitely helps when you have a player like David Rodriguez in the lineup who's so forward-thinking and direct and bold in the way he attacks the opposing back lines. And you see that on the opening goal and then his run to create the second goal that they score as well. But this isn't just how the game played out. This is how Ottawa approaches this game as well tactically. There's a clear directive in the way they line up with Kevin Dos Santos and Gabriel Ancinoro as wingbacks, both who really put the winger in the wingback position in the way they play, getting so far forward and out wide and offering that width. And I think that's obviously a massive departure from what we've seen in the past from this Atletico Ottawa side. And then when you have technicians like Manny Aparicio and Juan Castro in the midfield able to control and dictate the tempo of the game, you know, that allows you to hold 61.7% of possession, which is the second most Atletico Ottawa have ever held in a CPL match and the most they've ever done on the road. And you look at last week, they set a club record for expected goals in a CPL match. The record in all competitions, as Charlie pointed out, would be that 7-0 game against Valor. Sorry to any Valor fans catching a stray on a bye week, but
They're supposed to be off this week, man.
sorry, Valor fans. But you know, already they surpassed that this week. So the 2 highest XG total games ever for Atletico Ottawa in the CPL are in Diego Mejia's first 2 games as the head coach of this club. And I think that just shows a clear shift of where this team is heading and how they've been able to create offensive chances already under his tenure.
Yeah, this just immediately looks like a completely different team from last year. They did not look like a team that was going to try and attack in this way. They also didn't have David Rodriguez last year. Mitch, we spoke about him a little bit last week, but we have a bit more time this week because there's only 6 teams to discuss. Just this guy's incredible, right?
Yeah, I mean, so much fun. Like, there's very few players in the league that would pick up the ball in the midfield like that and just think, I'm going to go at goal here. I'm going to, run at these defenders and see what they're about. And yeah, the dribbling, the close control is excellent. And his ability to find teammates and to make those good runs in behind are quality as well. So there's just so much to like about what he's already brought to this team. And I think it will only get better as, him and Balou Tabla and Sam Salter start to connect a little bit more. And, really this could have been a lot more than 4. They had some great chances. Callum Irving made some fantastic saves. it seemed like he had Sam Salter's number in particular in this game, who really should have scored himself. So yeah, David Rodriguez is, as exciting of a debutant in the CPL as we've seen in a very long time, I think.
Yeah, and just Alex, I'll give you a word on Ottawa here as well, because you were at this game, you were covering this game. What was it like seeing the way this attack worked in person, and what excites you about what you've seen from Ottawa so far this year?
Yeah, it was just so fluid, so forward thinking, like you mentioned, with the wing backs flying up the field, the midfield. Just they could really, they wanted to play right on top of Vancouver. They wanted to find those spaces, expose the gaps. One thing I did find interesting after the game, Mejia kind of gave a shout to his analysts, saying he was very happy with the way they approached this game plan. They noticed some weaknesses in Vancouver FC and they exposed them. And I think that's also a credit to the work they did, that not only do they have a game plan, they know how to execute it. They have the players like Rodriguez, who he's even better to watch live than on TV. I'm sure Charlie can confirm, having seen him week one. He's flying everywhere. Like, it also helps to have that game plan as well, that execution. I think those two things hand in hand, it might make this team so scary this year.
Absolutely. Speaking of scary, every coin has two sides. This is a great day for Ottawa. It was not so much so for Vancouver FC. 2 losses in a row, both at home to start the season. Mitch, your big question for Vancouver FC is, can they find a way to become more connected and cohesive despite so much roster turnover?
Yeah, it's just so disjointed right now from Vancouver. And, of course, part of the mission with this club is to play young players, and you're going to go through growing pains when you do that. But I don't think it has to be this painful. Like, there's some basic, I think, tactical issues that are really plaguing them right now in terms of their spacing through the lines, in terms of, when Ottawa got into those spaces, closing down players and having the decisiveness to do that. I mean, you see how, as brilliant as David Rodriguez is in this game, how easily he's able to just get to a dangerous position with his running and not be closed down. We see Nicholas Mosquita make his debut and look decent. We know they're bringing in a bunch more international players, but with that comes even more kind of trying to find that cohesiveness, where they're going to have to integrate these guys as well over the next few weeks and figure out, what they have in these players. So it has to become a lot more cohesive really, really quickly in terms of, just the way they line up, in the terms of how they fight together and how they move together. If, this team really wants to start to find success, and doesn't get any easier. Obviously, they're going into Atco Field in Calgary FC's home opener next week. And, Calgary is going to want to make a statement as well. So this is a big week of looking in the mirror, I think, for this Vancouver FC side, and we'll see what they're able to come up with.
Yeah, this is the thing, man. I think a lot of us did expect it to be a bit of a challenge for Vancouver at times this year, just given the roster on paper. But there is talent in this group. They've got Kunle Dadaluka right back. Nicholas Mosquita started this game. Yeah, maybe he's not up to speed yet, but he's a player who was talented enough to do a good job at MLS level not very long ago. You've got Alejandro Diaz in kind of a second striker role at times for them right now. He's got to find his footing. Afshin Gopi had a lot to say about his team after this game. We're going to hear a little bit of it here, because I think it's just a solid indication of where the frustration is with Vancouver FC right now.
They kind of saw their vulnerabilities psychologically and also tactically, and they were able to capitalize and score their 3 goals in the first half. And we can go through all 3 goals. There were terrible mistakes, and even the 4th goal, another terrible mistake. And we had a lifeline, they were down 1-3, and we take a bad goal. So it's going to take me a few days to recover from this, but I have to show a very positive face and move on. And I feel as Nico will get fit, and as other foreigners that come into our team, we can create the right blend and mix that can not only play young players, but also get competitive results. But very disappointing for me. I think very disappointing for all of us at the club.
Again, Alex, you've now seen both Vancouver FC games this year, both losses. Can you put your finger on a significant problem in this side, or where this is going wrong so far?
Yeah, I would just say two things, like the midfield and just defending in general. I say the midfield just because, say, in this game, they're missing Vasco Fry through suspension. You're going with the pivot of Emmerich Fotzing, very high potential player. He had some good moments. And Nico Mosquita, who's more of a 10. It's going to be tough for those two guys to go up against the quality, the experience in the Ottawa midfield. But, there's little things you can see defensively. I thought the spacing between all their lines was off. Those are little things that, you can take care of as a team. They're playing way too narrow. In stadium, one thing you can see that maybe you guys don't on the broadcast is every time Ottawa would attack, you'd see one of the wing backs wide open on a side because all the Vancouver defenders were too narrow. I think those are all little fixable things that they can work on, because for me, they had good moments in the attack in this game. They could have been up 1-0. They just, you can't capitalize on that if you're giving away cheap goals every week.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to maybe a happier subject, though. We're going to talk about the Halifax Wanderers. So much fun so far to start this year. Disappointed not to get 3 points in Ottawa last week. This week, honestly, started the game very poorly against York. We're giving the ball away very, very easily. But we're gonna talk about York's press in a little bit as well, because I think that was maybe partly due to York doing a good job. But my big question for the Halifax Wanderers this week is, how big a difference would it make for them if they have a healthy and informed Thiago Coimbra all year? He comes off the bench and he scores with his first touch of the whole season in I think the 81st minute of this game. You can just see how much it means to him. This is a guy who played 20 games last year, but only 10 of them were starts. Only 19 the year before. Again, a lot of appearances off the bench. He's still got 7 career CPL goals to his name. Mitchell, I know you've spoken to him in preseason, and we've talked a lot, off air and in the office and things like that, about how much potential Thiago has. He's still 21. He's an under 21 player by the rules this season, but it feels like he's been around for a little bit, but never quite hit the potential that I think we wanted to see from him all year. But this game is just a perfect encapsulation of what he can do. He's watching the game from the bench, and he can see what York's backline is doing. He can see it's getting high. You can see that they're getting tired. He comes on immediately, times that run perfectly in behind. I mean, who knew Kareem Sow could ping a ball like that all the way over? But Thiago's got the pace, and he's able to bring that ball down. And then he's got that clever goal scorer's instinct to kind of bring Ivan Pavella out of his goal and then chip it just past him. Mitchell, I know that this is a player that you like a lot. So I guess I'll throw the same to you. How big a difference would it be for Halifax if he can be what we think he can be this year?
Well, the numbers say it. When Thiago Coimbra is on the pitch, he's creating chances and he's scoring goals. It's just the fact that he hasn't been able to be on the pitch that consistently over the past few years, just with injury and, all those sorts of things. So now that hopefully he is healthy again, I mean, we see it within, a minute and 2 seconds of him coming onto the pitch in this match. He's already found the back of the net. And when you look at this Halifax side, I mean, you've got guys like Sean Rea, you've got Giorgio Proba, you've got Isaiah Johnston, Wes Timoteo. You have so many guys who are so adept at getting that service into the box. Having a number 9 like Thiago Coimbra, who's big, who can hold up possession, who can, turn and get in behind and stretch opposing back lines. Like, that's going to be such a difference maker for how they attack and also how they defend. You look at last week against Atletico Ottawa, where they kind of get trapped. If they have a guy like Coimbra who they can ping the ball up to and have it stick for a minute, maybe they aren't getting bombarded with wave after wave of Ottawa attacks. So Coimbra is crucial to what Halifax put together this season, I think. And if they can get, 20 odd healthy games out of him and 20 starts, I think that's going to be a massive difference for Halifax.
Yeah. How many times last year and the year before we looked at Halifax and be like, that's a team that needs a striker, right? They're so good with the ball. They're so good in possession. They can build up really, really methodically and patiently. But so many times they've gotten to those outer areas or that final third, and then there's just no focal point in the box, right? Last year, they hoped it was going to be Christian Bolesky. It certainly was not. The year before, they had to bring in Jordan Perusa on loan just to be that focal point. They've tried Ryan Telfer in that role at times. He's done pretty well there, but it's not quite his exact profile. He's maybe a little bit better coming in from wider areas. Thiago Coimbra can be that guy. They've got so much talent in midfield in this team. Mitch, you mentioned so many names: Probo, Johnston, Caligari, all these guys. if they have somebody to look for in the box that doesn't need to drop deep, can stay there, can push a line back, can create that space in midfield, then I think that there's a lot to like about this Halifax team who even last year had so many expected goals and so few actual goals because they didn't have a lethal killer finisher, which I think Thiago Coimbra can be. Obviously, again, he played 10 minutes in this game. He didn't play week 1. He's not a healthy Thiago Coimbra right now. He can be, though, and Patrice Geyser talked after the game about how carefully he's going to manage this player's minutes and make sure that by mid-season we do have a fully informed Thiago Coimbra. Hopefully that's the case. You never really quite know in football, but certainly that is what Halifax and I think everybody is going to hope for. But don't look now. Halifax have 4 points on the road. They only had 6 all of last year. So definitely an improvement in the way that they've gone away from home. And I know it's not something they focused on, but certainly something that we've noticed is that they do look better away from home, and they're back home next weekend. So, look for them to continue rolling. York, though, quickly, they've had two different performances. But Mitch, what's our big question on York this week?
Our big question on York, and we saw in this game, obviously, how do they turn strong starts and pressure into bigger leads? Obviously, they come out this game, they have a great first half, they score first, but then things kind of turn in the second half. And, that's the reason that they are not walking away with any points from this match.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is actually something that they were a little bit frustrated with last week too, even though they beat Vancouver, is how well they've played in these first halves and how little they've had to show for it. I mean, yes, they scored an excellent goal in the first half of this game, and it is from the way that they've been playing all game. They're staying high, they're winning the ball in the attacking half so often, and that's what Bitar does just before that goal. But they had, I think about 30 final third entries in the first half and only 4 shots, right? That's not quite the lethality that you want to see from a team like this. Again, they chose not to change the starting 11 from the first week. A lot of us maybe might have thought Julian Altobelli might start after scoring twice, so that was a surprise. Mauro Eustáquio chooses to stick to his guns in this one. And it is an effective front three. It's a very difficult attack to defend against just because they're always running at you. And if you're Halifax and you love to play out of the back, it is difficult to do that when you've got Farron and Adonijah Reed and Bitar just kind of breathing down your neck at all times. However, once York recovered the ball, I think it was a little too easy at times for Halifax to just kind of steer them away from the most dangerous areas. They were coming in, along the byline or the end line and putting the shots at a very, very easy angle for Halifax to block. Yesley took a couple in the face, I think, from shots that were like from basically at the end line. And that's not quite where you're going to score from in the CPL. But again, York is a team that I've been pretty impressed with generally, but I think they need to find that final ball and that final touch. And Mauro Eustáquio kind of said the same. His big focus for this club is that they need to kill games. And that's kind of what he said right here after the game.
I think we came out prepped mentally and obviously physically for the game in the first half, and that's something that didn't happen in the second. I think we were quite comfortable in the first half. We created multiple chances, a lot of crossing opportunities, a lot of shots on goal. We just weren't able to bury it. So that's something that we have to look into, and obviously we're getting to those situations, so we got to be able to kill teams. It happened in Vancouver as well. So satisfied in that perspective. But I think we kind of took our foot off the pedal in the second half, and they won one challenge, 2 challenges. We were never able to secure the ball up top, and they grew with the game. And obviously, in this league, that when it gets physical, things change quickly, and that's what happened to us. So I think, there's some things to take of positives. Obviously, we want to continue on growing, but at the end of the day, we lost the game, so we have to look at what we can change for the next one.
Yeah, and as he mentioned, just when Halifax picked up their energy, York were not able to match. And I was a little surprised by that, especially after Altobelli came into the game. Did have some good moments for sure. Had one that maybe he was in a better position to score had Gabby Bitar passed it to him. Didn't happen though, and York, I don't think a lot to be worried about, but certainly a focus for them early on is they've been very good in first halves and have not put the ball in the net as much as they need to. Let's head back to BC though, because Alex, you were watching Pacific and Forge this weekend. Not such a nice day for Pacific as it was in week one. A bit of a harder afternoon against a Forge team that just looks like they're flying right now. And we're going to start with the Hammers. Alex, your big question is, can set pieces unlock even more out of Forge's already dominant attack? It certainly looked like it did in this game.
Yeah, it's kind of, that's wild to think. This team led the league in goals last year, but not a whole lot of them were like this. I love the set piece sequence. It was incredible to see unfold in real time. A very harmless free kick. You kind of feel, are they going to shoot it into the stands like you see so often, or are they going to hit it into the wall or put in a low percentage cross? But all of a sudden they just all came alive in swift motion. And then the second goal is just a classic routine. Bunch of guys, clear run, ball goes into that right space, header, goal. I think Jordan Wilson said in the IG comments it was DJ Drogba-esque. That's pretty accurate comparison. I don't know if Achinote Janssen, that's what he was quite going for, but I'm sure he'll take the comparison. But yeah, it's for Forge, the fact they scored so much and they're worn off set pieces. This is such a dangerous layer to add to their game, because as a team that has the ball a lot, as a team that attacks, you're going to win a lot of fouls. You're going to win a lot of corners. So if you can be dangerous on that, that's just another thing teams have to be scared about of, oh my goodness, I can't put the ball out for a corner. I can't foul this Forge team. So keep an eye on it. What I've liked with Bobby Smirnotis over the last few years, this team's good. They've won a lot. You almost can get bored. Yeah. Sometimes you need these side quests to keep you going. I think he's been having a few side quests. Like, some years we've seen them work on their low block. We've seen them work on their transition game. And that's been a nice thing we've seen that they've used in maybe some Can Champ games, some CONCACAF. Well, if they're adding this as their side quest, like, it's hard to think what else they might need in their game, because this is definitely a very important one.
Yeah, hold the thought on that low block, because I think we're going to get to that in a second with Pacific. Yeah, I think the most important question, the question has to be asked. Would Alex Achinote Janssen have been able to score that header if he still had the hair from last year?
Hard to say. I think he looking aerodynamic there with the new trim.
That's what I'm saying. He doesn't have any drag behind him, so he can get out to that ball. I think we got a clip from Bobby as well, because he was talking about set pieces. He's obviously a guy who's studied them at many levels of the game, and to start to see them pay off in a game like that is always something that is very heartening for a coach. So let's see what Bobby had to say about it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You could be dominant in the game and can't get the ball in the net, and you unlock it with a set piece. Or on the flip side, you could be chasing the ball a little bit, and now you get that one moment, and you got to start taking advantage of it. And it's something we've talked about in this preseason a little bit more, and that we have to be sharper on. As a team who scored a lot of goals last year and did very well, not many of them came from set plays. So every year we try and challenge ourselves with different things. That's one thing we've done, and we've worked on it. So it's great when you get them in a positive manner so early in the season. It makes sure that your players stay sharp when you're doing it in training.
2 games in, and Forge are the only perfect team left in the CPL, and not just perfect as in they've won both games. They have not conceded a goal yet. Which is crazy considering how Forge have started some of their previous seasons. Sometimes it's taking them some time to be good at the start of the year. Unfortunately, I guess for the rest of the league, that is not the case this time around. But the team that didn't score on them this time is Pacific FC. I don't know where our concern is with them in this game, but Alex, your big question is, can they solve low block woes? Because I think that was something they struggled with against Forge here.
Yeah, I didn't want to necessarily point out the attack yet, because I think James Merriman rightfully pointed out it's too early. One game they had a good sample size. One game they didn't have a good sample size. But for what it's worth against Valor, they absolutely destroyed Valor's high line. Like, it was Valor wanted to play on the front foot. They wanted to be the aggressor. Pacific were like, bet we're going to throw Josh Hurd up front. He's going to cause all sorts of problems. It's going to be a counterattacking masterclass. All right, well, Forge kind of studied the game plan ahead of this game. I asked Bobby Smirnotis, like, what are some things you're expecting? And he kind of coyly hinted. He's like, yeah, maybe we'll sit back and, make the field feel a little tighter, take away space. And you saw them do that, and Pacific struggled. And that's something they struggled with a lot last year. This was a team that they were almost better when they went away because, of course, at Starlight Stadium, there's the pitch size. You're already dealing with that, and then teams are realizing, oh, if you just sit back and dare Pacific to break you down, this isn't the 2021-22 teams that had these technicians that could just break you down in different ways. So I think it was interesting to see Forge kind of test that model again this game, and they were rewarded for it. They took away space. Pacific had less answers. What I will say, though, I think there is a solution to this problem, and I think his name is Marco Bustos. He had 70 touches. I think that's something where you're happy with that. You're James Merriman, you're looking, okay, if you're getting a player like Marco Bustos 70 touches in games, he's going to give you goals and assists throughout the season. It's early. He's getting used to it. So I think that's for Pacific the one thing they can look at, because I think if there's no reason, if your team's like, they're going to have to expect a lot of low blocks going forward. So they're going to need solutions to fix them.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it was maybe a bit of a more traditional Marco Bustos role in this game, like a little bit more what we expected. He was more on the right. He was a lot closer to Caden Chung, at least, which I think is a partnership that we expected Pacific to try and build back up after it was so effective, as you mentioned, in the 2021 and 2022 campaigns with this team. And we heard from Caden as well after this game, because he spoke a little bit about what maybe wasn't quite working for them against Forge.
No, I think I said they're a good team. They're well organized. But yeah, as I said, like, I think we let ourselves down a little bit too. It comes down to us, so with a little bit of lack of quality in those moments. And then also just recognizing that if it's not working, if maybe we're not on the front foot and sharp enough with these transition moments, that we slow the game down and retain more possession. I think we tried to force things a little bit too much today, and credit to Forge's backline. I mean, they were tough to break through, and but again, I think we have to take that on our shoulders a little bit and say that the quality in the attack, in the transition especially, wasn't what we wanted it to be. And that just comes down to final passes, last actions, maybe decision making, and that's not just from our attackers, though. That's from our midfielders. That's from our fullbacks getting forward, and we just got to be a little sharper. And I think recognize the right moments and when it's working and when it's not. I think that let us down the most today.
Yeah, as he mentioned, they didn't really have a lot of the attacking transition moments that I think they wanted. But anyway, I think we look ahead now. There are, again, 4 matches next weekend over the Easter weekend, including on Friday on TSN, Cavalry FC back in action at home against Vancouver FC. An interesting game. We'll see how that one shakes out between a rested Cavalry and a Vancouver that desperately needs something to get their season going. And we got a triple header on Saturday, Atletico Ottawa hosting York, the Halifax Wanderers home opener against Pacific, and then Forge and Valor wrapping up that day. Boys, I'm going to put you both on the spot here, and I want you to tell me which of these 4 games you are most excited for next weekend and why, starting with Mitchell.
I'm glad I get to go first. I'll go with the little Battle of Ontario action. We obviously saw what it was like in the playoffs last year. Now, new head coaches for both sides and a lot of different players, but we know this rivalry between Atletico Ottawa and York is budding. And I think this year, with the way Atletico Ottawa have been playing and how exciting attacking wise they are, and the way York have started this season as well, there's plenty to like in this game.
Alex?
Yeah, tough question. I'll go with Halifax Pacific, just because I think both teams have a lot to prove. They had maybe, one of these 2 games, they each had one that they'll be looking at it and they'll be pleased with, and they'll have one where they're thinking, okay, maybe we weren't at the level we wanted to be at. I think, these are both teams with the potential to very much be in that mix for the top 2 spots at the end of the year if they can, play to their potential, find some consistency from both of their regards. Games between these 2 last year were always, and in general, ever since year 1, have always been a bit feisty, those coastal clashes. So I'm looking forward to that.
Coastal clash. Yeah, that'll be a good one. I will take Cavalry Vancouver just because it's the champs returning home for the first time this year. It should be a good atmosphere. 2 teams looking for their first points of the 2025 season. It could be a feisty one as well. Again, there's been a little bit of disagreement between these sides as well last year. We think back to that Canadian Championship tie. Anyway, that's all for us this week. Thank you very, very much to Mitchell and Alex. Not sure when exactly we're going to be back next week. Obviously, it's a holiday weekend, but we will be here at some point. I hope you all enjoy all the games next week. Watch them all on OneSoccer or on TSN on Friday, and we'll see you next time.